Turf Talk with Drew Miller.
On this week's episode of Tiger Turf Talk, we host Cody Cimino, the athletic fields manager overseeing baseball and softball at Stanford University. Cody is a great friend of mine who actually was the first person to hire a Brentsville Turfgrass Management student into a professional setting back when he was working for the Potomac Nationals, which leads into a phenomenal conversation with such a awesome guy and discussing his incredible journey that's taken him all over the world, being able to impact so many different people with his abilities as a sports field manager, providing new opportunities for athletes in different countries, leading him to this point where he is at Stanford University overseeing baseball and softball, where he's hosted multiple regionals, and actually recently, after a walk-off win, is going to be hosting a super regional this weekend, which we dive into all the chaos that goes into what a regional event holds and all the fun and everything that sports field managers love, and that's why we do what we do. And Cody just embodies everything that it is to be a sports field manager, just being an overall great guy, having a huge heart and caring for so much more than his staff, caring for people like my students and different people like the athletes, the coaching staffs, all these different groups that have such a huge impact on our jobs and we have on their jobs. And again, we discussed what's going on and how it's an incredible opportunity for Stanford University in the Super Regional, moving on to the next stage and seeing the excitement in the eyes of the players and being able to play a huge role in that success. And we discussed the collective group and how it all comes together, and success is rooted in collaboration and being able to communicate well to get that desired goal. So we can't thank Cody enough for taking the time. We hope you enjoyed this episode of Tiger Turf Talk.
Sounds like a plan, man.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the 81st episode of Tiger Turf Talk. I'm your host, Drew Miller. Today we have on one of the OGs when it comes to supporting the Brentsville Turf program. We have Mr. Cody Cimino. See, I told you to mess it up. He is the athletic fields manager for overseeing baseball and softball. That might have been the worst introduction I've ever done, actually.
It's all right.
But how are you doing, man? It's so great to talk to you. It's been so long.
Yeah, man, it's been a while. I'm doing good, man. Just, we're working our way through a crazy season of athletics at Stanford. So it's been keeping us on our toes, but it's been a lot of fun.
That's awesome to hear. I was excited for you when you made the move back out there because that's home, right?
Yeah, it is.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was it was a long time coming. Been moving around for, I think it was like 10 and a half, 11 years. So
yeah,
it was
a few different places,
bounce around a little bit. It was good to finally get back west and be back around family and everybody and get to work at a place I grew up going to games at. So it was cool.
That's awesome. So for people that are new, that have not known our relationship, Cody was actually the first person to hire one of our students in any capacity of the Brentsville Turf program back when the Potomac Nationals were the Potomac Nationals in Woodbridge, Virginia. So that is a long time ago. Oh, that's like 5 years ago now.
God, yeah, it must have been. Yeah, because I think my first year there was 17, and I think that's when Will hooked us up, and y'all helped me fill out my grounds crew.
We tried to, anyways.
Oh yeah, no, it was.
I don't know if they did a good enough job.
Oh, they did great, man. It was fine.
Yeah,
it's advanced day baseball. They expect things to be a little rough in the beginning, but the guys, everybody picked it up quick, and they got into the swing of things, no problem.
That's awesome to hear. I know they missed you when you left. They were not the biggest fans of the new guy, but I don't know who he is, so I apologize, whoever that is. If you listen, my bad. So you were talking about it, obviously moving around and everything. If you want to go through sort of where you've been, I know you went to Memphis after Potomac, and a couple different places before that. What has been your journey, and maybe start off with what brought you to turf management?
I mean, grew up, playing sports, big sports guy. Ever since I was, old enough to know how to watch baseball and stuff. Obviously was terrible at baseball, but I liked it anyway. Couldn't hit, but could field and throw. So I kind of figured there wasn't really going to be a whole lot of a future for me in between the lines, but so I was working construction in, let's see, what was that? Would have been like 2009, 2010. And it was right during that economic downturn. And I had gotten into construction management. And one of the projects I was overseeing was redoing a couple of high school football fields in the San Jose area. And I was like, there's people to get, we started working with a athletic fields construction company. And I was like, talking to them a little bit about, this is a job you guys do. You drive around and make fields. And they were like, yeah, it's awesome. I was like, it sounds pretty cool. So I kind of started asking them a couple of questions, and then, actually got laid off from that job because people stopped doing construction during an economic downturn. Who knew? So I, kind of just went, hey, this might be the best chance to go back to school and get into something I really love doing. Applied to Rutgers Golf Turf Management 2-year degree program. Got in. And the next thing I know, I'm on my way to New Jersey in January, which was an adventure for a California kid, to say the least. Especially a kid that's from the Bay Area, where there is no snow and no ice. So that was a challenge.
People talk about culture shock. That's a freezing.
Yeah, a little bit, different pace. Things are high paced in Silicon Valley, but it's a different deal when you go to, northern New Jersey. You're pretty close to the city. And, but yeah, no, it was an awesome experience. I loved every second of it. Cause it was my kind of learning, really. Like it was, they give you, they're going to throw a ton of information at you. But for me, it was great because as much information as we got, we still had a lot of hands-on. And then obviously, in between the sessions in Jersey, we were back in, I was working in golf at the time, and we were able to go back to your course and put everything you learned into action, which I love because I'm a big hands-on learner. I'm not, that's the best way I've found that I learn stuff is just by getting out and putting it into practice. And so the big thing for me was, it was just great to be able to learn stuff and then apply it pretty much immediately. And then while I was at Rutgers, I met my buddy, Dan Boyle, who at the time was working for the Louisville Bats. And I was like, do you work at a baseball field? And he was like, yeah, I work at a baseball field. And I'm like, that's a thing. And he's like, yep. And so I was sold. And so I basically just started annoying every minor league team in the country by sending them resumes that they did not ask for and just telling them that I would come work for them on their grounds crew. And I got a couple of people responded back. One of whom was my buddy Ryan Woodley, who very well also. He was the head groundskeeper for the Staten Island Yankees at the time, and he had an open spot for a grounds crew intern for the season. So baseball adventure started there. After that season, I got my first head job with the Augusta Green Jackets, they were a San Francisco Giants affiliate at the time. So that was low A for the Giants. From there, the Giants brought me back out west for a season to work for the San Jose Giants. I worked there and split time between there and the big league club up in San Francisco, which was an awesome experience. Because it's all well and good doing, minor league baseball is awesome and it's a great thing, but it's also really, really cool to be able to kind of see that next level. And kind of my big thing has always been everybody's got a little, we all do basically the same processes at every ballpark. You're basically, you're doing the same thing. You're setting a baseball field up, but everyone tends to have one or two little idiosyncrasies, one or two little things that they do differently. And so the big thing for me was just I want to see as many different ways people do things as possible. And then kind of pick the stuff that I liked and add it to the toolkit. And so it was really, really cool to, get up there and learn from Greg a little bit. And then after that year, I decided to take a job as the assistant groundskeeper for the Houston Dynamo. Did that for a year. And then I'll be honest with you, I was burnt out. I was like, I had gone crazy for 3 or 4 years, almost no break. And I was like, okay, I was burnt. So took a job in Houston, working for a landscaping company. I was an account manager. And one of the reasons why I did that was because I was like, this will give me the opportunity to run a crew and get a little bit of management experience. And then also we had a construction company that did our construction side of the business that did sports fields. And so, every time I was in the office, they were like, hey, come over here and look at this thing. Does this make sense to you? You're the groundskeeper. You're a groundskeeper. And so I did, a little bit of consulting that I did not plan on doing. But it was great experience to kind of learn a different angle of the same thing. And then, couldn't stop the itch, had to get back into baseball. And that's how I ended up in Alexandria, living in Alexandria and working in Woodbridge with Potomac Nationals. That's where we crossed paths. I was there for 2.5 years, I want to say. Then Memphis, was in Memphis for a season, worked for the Redbirds, AAA for the Cardinals. And we also did 901 FC, which is the USL Championship soccer. And so that was an awesome experience. It was tough, but it was awesome because it was nonstop conversions between baseball and soccer and back and forth. And so I took the job with the expectation that it was gonna, kick my butt a little bit, but it was going to be an awesome thing to, really just, again, add to the toolkit. A lot of stuff I never would have thought learned how to do everything from, running a combinator to laser leveling and doing all that kind of stuff.
All the stuff you want a field manager to have in the tool belt, but you don't put it on the qualifications, right?
Exactly. It's like, I tried to make sure that every step along the way was like satisfying a different, just satisfying a different thing on the resume, just bringing in different skills, furthering education in my own way kind of thing. It was very much like I wanted to make sure that every step was a step in the right direction as far as my career was going, but also a step in the right direction of I wanted a new challenge. I wanted to be able to add things to my knowledge base. I wanted to be, I wanted to continue to be getting better as a groundskeeper and being more aware and, learning all the finer points of things. And so, yeah. And then, that got me an interview at Stanford, moved back here. I started work on March 7th of 2020, I guess.
One day.
Yeah. I worked for 4 days and then we were shut down for 2.5 months, which was wild. And then my first year at Stanford was, I was basically just a landscaper. We just maintained the athletic fields. They brought us back and we were the only people on campus for, I think, 9 months, which was weird.
That is crazy.
And, so we basically just maintained the fields for a while. And cause they kept saying we kept hearing rumblings about them bringing football back or bringing other sports back. And then they finally did. For that first year, which was weird because there was, just people playing in silent stadiums and stuff. But
stadiums, everything.
It was good to at least have the games back,
For sure.
But yeah, that's pretty much where we're at now. So
yeah, I remember. I think I texted you, I think it was like a month into COVID. I was like, I see you're out at Stanford now. What happened? I was like, I'm happy for you because I knew you're from out there. So it was cool to see and everything. And obviously you've been so many different places and you probably have learned so much from those experiences. What has it been like for you to make that transition from what was like minor league baseball, like 24/7 to collegiate type of thing? Cause it's two different animals. And I will say minor league baseball probably prepares you way more for college athletics than college athletics prepares you for minor league baseball in a sense. Because of the grind that comes with the minor league baseball schedules and whatnot.
Oh yeah.
It mimics the college for a bit, but college isn't as much sort of forced on you in a sense in a short time frame. What has it been like sort of for you to be able to have that transition from the minors to a college setting?
It's been interesting. I mean, I think the schedule for minor league baseball will kind of, I mean, everything else kind of seems like a vacation after that. I mean, just because, minor league baseball, you're running hell for leather from basically, you start, prepping for opening day in like middle end of February. You're working pretty steadily through March, and then obviously games start April 1st. And then you're rolling all the way through till, September-ish, depending on whether or not your team makes playoffs or whatever. And then, so like that kind of, I mean, just knowing that you have the gas in the tank to go, okay, like I can do this 7 to 10 days in a row. Like it is what it is. The baseball season in college, it seems is so wildly different, but still challenging at the same time, just because like you have fewer games. But the thing that was the surprising thing to me about college sports was that they kind of never really end. Like you have, like the actual competitive season is relatively short compared to, your winter ball, and you have the basically 2 months of winter ball in the fall, and then they start training. They start early season practice. I think this year we started the 3rd of January, and they started working out 3rd of January, and their first game wasn't until I think our first non-conference game was, I want to say, the 15th of February. So yeah, I mean, the grind's a little bit different, but it's still definitely a grind. But yeah, I mean, it was the other thing that was interesting to me about it was, and one of the things that made it really, really good to have the experience of, teaching your kids when they were on the grounds crew with me in Potomac was in college, especially at our school, our manager really, really wants his guys to be involved in upkeep of their own field, awesome. Which is great as long as you can get them to do things to the level that you expect. So there's like, it's good. Yeah. So like, there's good, like, I think it's an awesome policy. I think it's a really cool thing. Just because I think it gives the guys a little bit more, a little bit more of a respect for what the groundskeepers do. And, a lot of these, there's at least a couple of guys, every year that from our team. Last year, I think we had 4 or 5 guys drafted. So, I think it's a good thing that they go into their professional careers with a little bit of a healthy respect for what those guys are doing to get the fields ready for them. But it's also one of those things where
I think it's incredible at the pedigree of what Stanford baseball is, like having that level of top 10 teams consistently, and the coach is willing to like not force, but like, hey, you need to help out. Like we're all in this together. I think that's awesome. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, I think I completely agree. I think it's a really cool thing. And I think it's something that I think it's something that, like you said, a lot of people probably wouldn't expect that from the program. But I know that our old Coach Marquez, he was the one that instituted it. And then our current coach, David Esker, played for the previous coach. And so there was a couple of things that he held over from the previous coaching regime. And that was one of the things that he really liked was, these guys, they go to a school in a beautiful place. They live in there, and, they're expected to do, to handle a large, academic workload, but it's also good for them to kind of get out there and, get their hands dirty a little bit. The tough thing for me has been making sure that, if they're going to do something that, I want to make sure that they're, if they're going to help out, that they're going to help out in the right way.
You don't want to add work to your work.
Exactly. And so, that's been a little bit of a challenge, but it's also been a cool thing just because, for the most part, the guys have been very, very receptive and, they want to learn how to do it the right way. Cause, one of the things I kept telling them was I was like, hey, this is your office. Like you wouldn't want, like the pitchers take care of the game mound. So it's like, I just kept looking at them going, hey, like you're going to want to make sure you do this right. Cause you're the one that's going to have to throw off it. Like I'll fine tune it as best I can. And I know what I'm doing, but it's important, like having the attention to detail while they're doing it. Like you should take a little bit of pride in that. Like it's your pitcher's mound, I'm not the one throwing off it. You are, and so I think that was one of the cool things that I really liked about it was, it was another one of those things I didn't expect when I took the job, but I think it's a cool aspect of it. But yeah, it's definitely been a little bit of a challenge. That and the other thing was the weirdest thing was taking a job and not meeting anybody from the coaching staff or the team for almost a calendar year. And then you kind of get thrown into that COVID season where they tried their damnedest to make sure that we weren't really around the team or the coaches. And so there was still another season where it was like ships passing in the night. Like I'd get done with setting the field up and I'd get off the field and then the players would come on the field. And so it wasn't really until this year where it was like, okay, things are kind of back to normal. Like we're allowed to interact. And because of that, all of a sudden, everything's kind of taken off for us, at the baseball field anyway, just because, it's like anything else. You develop a relationship, people, you learn how to work with people and your message goes a lot farther because they get to know you and vice versa. You get to learn what they want, as far as, field performance and all that kind of stuff goes, because you're free to have those conversations, which is nice. So this year is definitely, I think we've definitely like turned a corner and definitely gotten things more along the lines of where I wanted to get them to, just because of the ability to, work with the people I'm supposed to work with. So this year's been a lot better. I mean, I was looking, obviously, like I'm sure, like a lot of guys in our industry, like, you take periodic photos of your field. And then, because of the wonders of social media, it'll pop, they'll remind you of like the photo you took 6 months ago. Mm-hmm. And I saw a picture of, we came out of the COVID season. We ended up hosting regionals last year. And so obviously that picture came up of the first day of regionals. And I was like looking at the two fields side to side. I was like, wow, it doesn't even look like the same. I mean, it looks like the same field because it's in the same place, but that's about the only thing that's similar. So it was
still right there.
Yeah, exactly. Can't move that bullpen, but it's so, yeah, I mean, it was just nice to, and especially because, this year we're number 2 in the country, and it's nice to,
right in front of my Hokies. What the heck is that?
Hey,
couldn't give me like one more spot,
It happens, man. But yeah, so I mean, it was nice knowing that, like, we're going to get a little bit of national exposure. It's like you want to make sure you put your best foot forward, and you want to make sure that you're not going to get a bunch of calls from other buddies in the industry, and they're going to go, "What happened to your field, man?"
It's always the industry guys, right? It's not the network television people. We don't care about that. It's whether or not you get crap at the next SFMA or something,
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to. You got to you want to try and put your best foot forward if you're going to be and especially like that's the other thing. It's like your nightmare is like, oh, you have like some classic game that's going to be replayed, so that just means if your field's not up to snuff, or oh great, I have to look at this every other day on highlights for
your walk
God knows how long.
Walk off in the regional final, right?
Yeah, exactly. So
for sure.
So yeah, no, it's nice to see it kind of, like I always told my boss, we talk every day, and I'm like, this thing, this isn't going to be a quick thing. It's going to be turning a cruise ship. And I think we finally got the cruise ship turned around, and now we're kind of like full steam ahead towards, where we want to get to, which is, it's a nice thing. I'm proud of it for sure.
So you really hinted at it a lot in talking about the relationship with the coach and whatnot. What has it been like, not just the coaching staff, but overall being, again, out of COVID, you can actually see people face to face and whatnot, developing a relationship, which in minor league baseball and other places is the front office, but as an athletic department, there are so many levels. When I was at Tech, we had the athletic director of baseball, we had his boss, we had their boss, and then we had the money guy, and then we had the real athletic director. What has it been like for you to sort of create these relationships to where you can finally, again, you were talking about steering the ship full steam ahead in the right direction, prepping for big events like the Super Regional this weekend?
Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, that like just being able to be around the ballpark and being able to, I mean, I'll be honest with you. Like, I mean, I literally met one of the ladies from our finance department last week during softball Super Regionals. We both got hired the same week. We had never met each other face to face, and I'd been there I'm almost into my third year. So, I mean, that part of it is just mind blowing. Like her office is like, I don't know, a 4-minute walk from the baseball field. So, go figure. This year's been everything as far as, being able to communicate and talk to people freely and being able to just happen, now I can just walk up and go into the baseball office. Before it was like, you have to wait for somebody to come outside and you need to, it was like a whole thing. And so just being able to just do something as simple as walk up. You see the coach come in the morning, you can go, walk up when the doors open, knock on it. And, hey boys, how's everything going? What are we looking like for practice? Like, what do you guys need from me? Is anything you noticed as far as field conditions go? What do we want to keep? What do you want to change? Any of that input is huge for me specific. I like having that input. I like having, that open door policy of like, hey, like everyone's part of this thing. Like I can prepare this field a bunch of different ways. I just need to know what you guys need, and so being able to just have those frank conversations, and being able to just be face to face and see how people react to things is huge. And to be honest with you, like that's one of my favorite parts of the job. Like, being able to talk baseball with people who've been in baseball for longer than I've been alive. Like you're always going to learn something. There's always something cool. You never know who's going to be in the office when you get in the office, which is always fun. And so there's always that kind of stuff. Like, and yeah, I think it's been huge, I'm between last week, it was, we had the NC2A rules committee guys that were on the field. So we had, I had meetings with them, meetings with the umpires, meetings with our NC2A, compliance representative, all sorts of things. So it's, there's a lot more meetings than I expected, but it's always like a somewhat productive meeting. And it's usually, luckily, like they know that I'm not going to be, it's going to be tough to get me to, nail down for a Zoom meeting, but they know they can find me. Like I'm not hard to find. I'm 6'1" and I'm on the baseball field.
Big field out there. I'm out there.
Yeah. Yeah. You see the guy that's out in the middle of the field most of the day. Yeah, that's me. And so, it's been really, really good just to be able to kind of, I think a lot of it too, is just being able to put faces with names and put faces with voices of people you talk to on the phone and that kind of thing. And yeah, I think the other thing too is, obviously, like I came in, no one knew who I was other than the, people that interviewed me. And so, like you have a couple of years, for me, a lot of it was, I had, we have to build up a level of credibility. So these people trust that like, I know what I'm doing and that, I'm doing what's best for the field and what's best for the athletes as far as, field safety goes. And, that was a major thing for me, was just, building some credibility. If people don't know you, they're not going to trust you to do anything. Like, and so being able to, kind of let the work speak for you, show that, if you give me the tools, I can use those tools to create something that looks good on television, but also plays well for the players and is something that the school can be proud of. That's one of the big things with our manager. Like, he always talks about how, sunken diamond is sunken diamond. It's one of the cooler places to watch college baseball. And, it's a recruiting tool for them. So making sure that, we put our best foot forward on ESPN2 or wherever we're on, if it's Pac-12 network or whatever, the athletes that they're recruiting see that stuff. You'd be fooled to think they weren't. If our highlights are on social media, we had a crazy ninth inning. We came back from 3-1 down and won on a walk-off to advance the Super Regionals. that highlights on a Sports Center. I got home and watched it on Sports Center. So the fact that our field looked good, that's something our coaching staff can go, hey, look, don't you want to play in this really cool atmosphere at this really cool place and have a good time and enjoy your college experience? So being able to kind of cover all your bases and work with everybody to make sure that we're all kind of pulling in the same direction, it's a big deal. And yeah, when you can't really have the same conversations or put people, talking to people, developing relationships is all about putting people at ease and getting to know each other. And when you can't really do that very well or very easily, yeah, it's gonna prolong the period of everyone kind of going, I don't know about this guy. He's just coming in and doing stuff like, so, it's interesting.
I hear you for sure. I love how highlights are screwed up for all sports field managers, because we're looking at the field like, oh, what happened back there? Oh, look at that.
Oh yeah. I tell people all the time I'm useless. Like if I'm watching a game, especially baseball game or whatever, if I'm watching a game that they're playing on natural grass, like you could walk in after I've been watching the game for 20 minutes and ask me what the score is, and I won't be able to tell you because I've just been like, how they do that? Oh, okay. And you're like, all right, I can kind of see what they're doing, but like, yeah,
no, 100%. So you were talking about it a little bit, and I know some of the different ways you can impact a game. What has it been like for you, and how have you sort of implemented different ways of impacting a baseball game when it comes to Stanford and what they need? Well, obviously, people who listen to this podcast probably know, like, watering down certain areas, slow down runners, slow down the ball rolls, things like that. What has it been like for you with the current coaching staff and getting those ideas out, working together to sort of make the best playing natural grass playing surface there is for those players and the team that they have?
Well, yeah, I think a lot of it, I had a hilarious I think earlier in the season, so start at the beginning. Our shop is a union shop, and so for a long time, they would do the 8 and hit the gate kind of thing, and that was even a thing on guys would stay for a little bit longer on game days, but as soon as pregame was over, they would get out of there. So in talking with our manager, he was like, it would be helpful if you were around to watch the game, and I was like, I get it completely. Like, I agree, and so he said something to his sports administrator, who is, part of the athletic department. And they started talking it over. They figured out how we could do it. We worked with our shop steward, and they were able to approve a schedule change so I could come in a little bit later in the morning, and I could stay later into the evening, so I could be around the team while they were doing what they do, and then kind of see how the field was playing for games. See how here we have game like last weekend, for instance, it was 85 degrees during the day, and then by the time we got to the 4th or 5th inning, marine layer had rolled through, and we were down to like 68 degrees. So that's going to change the way that game. It's going to change the way that field plays incredibly. Air density alone is going to keep the ball from flying out of the yard like it does at a 105 o'clock game. So, infield stays wetter, all that kind of stuff. You got more condensation. So, field conditions are going to will change dramatically from first pitch to 7th, 8th, 9th inning. And so it's all that kind of stuff gets rolled into it. But, I'm watching these guys play, and, we have really good, we have a pretty good set of infielders, and, it was all about like, okay. And so we have a meeting after the first homestand. I was able to stay for the games and then do post game after the game. I sit down with our manager. I'm like, okay, like, here are a couple of things I noticed I could change. Like, what do you guys want to do here, and here? One of them was, slowing down, softening up the area right in front of the plate, because we're getting a lot of bounces that were going, to the back arc or further into the outfield. And it was just, you're giving up cheap hits that way. And he was like, our manager was like, oh, wow. He's like, wow, you really you're no joke. Like, this is a whole other thing. And like, automatically that's credibility with the manager. Like, that goes, all of a sudden he goes, this kid knows baseball. I can trust him. We can, all of a sudden he's realizing that I'm a tool in his toolkit now. I can serve this other purpose that he didn't realize was a thing. And so, then all of a sudden, you hatch a plan of like in the Pac-12, I think we have 4 or 5 teams that plan specific on like only synthetic fields. So when they come to our place, our field's going to play completely different than what they're used to. And so we can kind of take advantage of that. We have a little bit of a competitive advantage that way. We can, you can slow things down. We can raise height of cut on the infield. We can make the ball play differently. All that kind of stuff. And so, being able to have those conversations and being able to work with the coaching staff and have them realize like, oh, this is something that we can use. This is a competitive advantage. We can make a difference here. It shows why our job is necessary. And it also shows that, hey, like, we're a valuable member of the team as well. So it's a nice relationship to have for sure.
It's awesome to hear, the way you said it, like a tool in their tool belt, that a lot of people don't understand that about groundskeepers and what you do and how, again, just incredible. The little things can impact such a large part of a game. It was Ryan and Matt Brown, who I used to have discussions with in New York about how the grounds crew usually accounted for like 5 wins in a season, things like where we impacted the game in a certain way that no one knows, but that ball didn't go in this place because of what we did, things like that.
Oh yeah.
It's so
you keep a bunt fair and
exactly,
you're winning games.
Exactly. Things like that where like, oh, well, why wouldn't it be the same thing at this field? Well, if there's not maintained the right way, it could go in the opposite direction,
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's awesome to hear, and especially with all the different people, again, like Ryan and them, like it's just awesome to have, again, sort of a group that knows that and puts that forward, and you being able to connect with the coach in a way that most people don't have that opportunity because for some reason coaches think they know best. No offense to the coaches, obviously. I always appreciate the coaches we had, but like being able to do that and have those moments where like we're going to have great success together over the next few years. And obviously it's working because number 2 in the nation is nothing to like snuff at, So it's awesome to hear. Obviously you sort of hinted at the walk-off win and everything. What has it been like for you the last couple weeks? Regionals we were talking about are much more difficult with the number of teams that are there, practices, prepping, time frame of prepping the field, turnover, having the volume of your games go up tenfold for a weekend to then just have your own super regional at Stanford this weekend. What has it been like for you the last couple of weeks and just sort of all playoff baseball for colleges? It's just chaotic. And you were talking about it before. I was laughing. The seasons never really end for college baseball because you're looking at it's like June 8th. we don't get done. Omaha's not done until like the end of this month. And it's like they have to be back in school in 2 weeks. Like, what's going on? Like,
well, yeah. I think we have, they leave, exactly. And I think, and then this year, last year coming out of COVID, I think on campus, we had 36 programs all playing at the same time because they were all trying to make up for missing
spring and everything
seasons. And so truncated schedules, everything, it was insane. We had stuff going on left, right, and center. And so this year, we kind of got lulled into like a little bit of a false sense of security. We had a couple of, in the middle of May, we didn't see either team play a game at our between softball and baseball, specifically for me anyway. We didn't see either team play a game at our facilities for 2.5, 3 weeks. So, because they were on the road in various places. And then even when they had non-conference midweek games, they were at other schools in California. And so, all of a sudden to go from that where it was like, oh, okay, like this is a pretty easy ride. And then all of a sudden, it was like, I think we ended the season with softball and baseball, first pitches that were 45 minutes apart. So you're running back and forth from one field to the next, making sure everything is going, getting off, at the right time. And then yeah, and then, you find out obviously the thing that was funny for us was, so we knew, we were like, okay, like we were top 12 in the country for most of the year. Preseason, we came into the season, I think we were ranked second or third or fourth, something like that. They kind of took a dip, so they got down. I think the lowest ranking this year was 14th or 15th, but then they hit a hot streak and got back on form closing out the season. And so we were pretty confident for the last month of the season that we were at least hosting a regional. So that was a little bit easier from like from a planning standpoint of like, okay, we know we're going to want to aerify a bunch of stuff. We're going to want to, poke some holes, make sure we can kind of relieve some compaction heading into that. We're going to want to put out some fert. We're going to, we want to schedule our spray out a couple of days. So, everything's popping when we're hitting game time, that kind of stuff. So like knowing that was, like the region, we knew when the regionals were going to be, that was easy. And then about 4 days or 5 days before the holiday weekend, we were like, oh, this is going to be great. Like we get the 3 days for the holiday weekend, get everybody out of here, get the crew rested up before the craziness starts with regionals. And then Tennessee lost to Oregon State in softball, and we were hosting a super regional that we did not expect to be hosting that weekend. And so it went from, oh yeah, everybody's going to get to go to their Memorial Day barbecue to, just kidding. We have national TV and we have, a couple extra softball games. So, that takes your focus away from the other field for a little bit. But, it was funny. Like everybody kept asking me, they're like, oh, this is going to be really, really tough. I'm like, I'll be honest with you. Like I will take fun game. I will take high intense games. I will take crowds. I will take TV and crazy hours and long days over winter ball in November. Like, because it's just practice. It's not that exciting. There's not a whole lot going on. All you do is set the field up and then, try not to get hit with batting practice balls. So, from that standpoint, like this is, the last couple weeks have been awesome. It's been really, really cool to be able to kind of like, like I said before, put your best foot forward, make sure your field looks good, but also, see the teams play and watch them, hopefully win. But yeah, definitely, regional days are unlike anything else. Like, we had 2 games a day. We had a 1 o'clock game, and then we either had a 6 or 7 o'clock game because they switched a couple of them throughout the weekend. Going into that week, it was, you kind of schedule. I always do like the, when's our first game, when's our first practice or game, and then I just kind of like reverse engineer it. Okay, so I'm going to start, nail dragging, rolling the infield, 2 days out, edging, day out. We did a foliar spray app. I think it was like the Sunday before. So you give it a little bit of time to kind of like get moving, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, like that's the fun stuff. You're prepping for something big. They're putting up banners and stuff around the stadium while you're mowing and getting stuff ready to go. So you're getting fired up. And then, yeah, the game days, you just kind of, it's, one thing after another. Like in the mornings, you're meeting with the NC2A, the umpires. The umpires are meeting and talking to me. The most random thing was we actually had rain in June in California, which is, we didn't have a lot, but it was enough to scare everybody, which was funny to me because I'm like, in the rain, go to the South and enjoy. And so, yeah, it was, pretty much nonstop there for a couple of days, but it was, fun stuff to be around for sure. The long days are long days, but it's the thing that's funny about the, and this as well as anybody, the baseball day is kind of a weird day because it's a long day, but it's fits and starts. You have, 45 minutes to an hour of intense period of work. And then you have 3 or 4 hours where you're not really going to be on the field at all because there's practice games or there's batting practice or games going on. So it's all about just managing the energy levels and keeping it moving kind of.
Absolutely.
Yeah. A lot of it's just, I try to reverse engineer things as the week goes on, just try to, make sure that we're, all this stuff happens and it leads right into, you're finishing up doing your preparation the day before. So there's no craziness going on the first day of, we got practice. Yeah, we got practice Friday at 1:00. Their practice, and then you come to practice right after that. So my whole thing is, today
All right, yeah, and I remember like the time frames when you're working, it's like a blur. You you get out there like 45 minutes before a game, chalking, getting everything ready, and you're like, oh, we're done. Okay, good.
Yeah, now it's time to go sit down for 5 minutes and collect your thoughts. Yeah, for sure. It's just a bunch of little sprints throughout the day that you just kind of have to manage the energy levels and keep it moving. And yeah, I mean, that's the exciting stuff for me. I love being out there on the field, and when there's people in the ballpark and you're smelling popcorn and people are getting excited about games and having all the teams in and around the ballpark and the different fan bases and stuff. It's a cool event. I mean, it's a really cool event, and it's definitely unique. I mean, you're not seeing that a whole lot anywhere else in baseball, where you're going to have 4 different fan bases in the same place at the same time. And 4 teams in the same place at the same time.
The chaos ensues, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You just hope that there's not like arch rivals on 3 different sides of it,
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, the thing was interesting for us was, me and my boss were sitting there talking, because you don't know who's going to get sent to your regional. Like we just had a night. We knew we were going to be hosting a regional. We just didn't know who was going to be in it. And so all of a sudden you start hearing, this lady, Jenny Claypool, she works at our for Stanford, and she's the lady that she does all the she does the NC2A compliance stuff, and then she also is the one that like bids to get all these events to have to come to campus. And so she's pretty dialed in on okay, these might be the teams that coming. This is what I'm hearing. This is where the committee's leaning. And so for a second there was a chance that we were going to end up getting like Ole Miss or LSU. And I was like, oh my God, that's going to be amazing. Just from an atmosphere standpoint, like that's going to take this thing up a couple notches. It was still a lot of fun. It was cool that we got another California team. We had UCSB was here, and they showed up real well because they're a pretty good baseball school, and they're relatively close. It's a 4-hour drive from their campus to ours. So they definitely used up their ticket allotment. And then Texas State, people were, I think the only people that weren't surprised that they were that good was the people that follow them. And, so there was plenty of Texas State people in town, and they showed up and showed out. So it was a really, really cool thing to be able to, have the stands full and really see that place get cooking when the games, kind of got down there towards the end. It was really awesome. And I'm really looking forward to super regionals, because if anything, it's just going to be more intense, because our team has a tendency to do everything the hard way. So it should be a wild weekend.
Don't you love that? Let's go into extra innings, make it fun, No.
Oh yeah.
That.
Yeah.
10-0 wins are great.
Yeah. How about a nice, easy 2-hour, 35, 40-minute game where nothing happens and we win comfortably? That would be fantastic. But
be great, right?
Yeah.
Groundskeeper, best friend.
It's the second time in 2 years that we've had to do the playoff game on Monday after they played 6 games over the weekend. So,
really? Jeez.
Yeah, I mean, it's they definitely.
You like going the extra game, guys? Come on, what are we doing?
Yeah, it's a whole lot of we'll see you tomorrow night. And it's like, okay, guys.
Yeah, those are always fun, right? I think that might have been my favorite part about college was like you were saying, the different groups coming in, meeting different people, and it was like consistently meeting new people. Obviously, like different levels, there are certain people you can meet on the other side, but with colleges, it's always like, hey, where can we go? Like for this, and this, and you're usually the guy that you're answering their questions.
Oh yeah.
So that's what I really enjoyed about it. Meeting like the coaching staff from other schools, meeting the players, seeing what they're up to. Like, oh, this place is amazing compared to our place. Like different things like that. So that's what I enjoyed about college athletics. And it wasn't just baseball; it was softball, soccer, football, all the different things. So,
oh yeah.
really, really cool experience with that. What do you have anything planned for the regional that, and probably plan's not the right term for it. What are you doing to prep for this weekend? Any cool mowing patterns or anything like that?
I think we're probably going to stick with what we were doing. We have the two of the guys that help me out mostly on the softball field and baseball field, Doug and Daniel. They really, really enjoy doing the mowing. They're all about mowing and God love them. I'd rather, at this point, like I'm not a huge fan of having to mow the infield. So the fact that they love doing it is fine with me. So I kind of let them do what they want with the patterns, and they've been pulling out some dandies. I think we'll probably continue to do the same pattern that we were doing before, which just I think we did some checker box in the infield, and then did straightaways to the position areas in the outfield. And it looks clean, it looks nice, and
classic.
And yeah, it's kind of hard to it's hard to pass up. It's a good look.
You got to have one of those a season.
Yeah. I mean, it's and it's the one they're the most comfortable with. They like okay, we can buzz through this thing, we can get it moving, and we can move on to the next step of prepping the field. So
yeah,
hey, as long as they're happy, I'm happy.
Absolutely. So I want to take a little shift. Obviously, again, we were talking about how you were the first person to hire a Brentsville turf management student.
Mm-hmm.
What was that sort of experience like you had Bronco. God bless you. Did you hear he has a job now? He just got hired as assistant superintendent.
No kidding.
Yeah.
That is not surprising.
Our boy is growing up, Cody. It's creepy.
I know.
I don't like
I can't believe it. Yeah,
graduated and everything.
Yeah, I can't believe, hey, the fact that he graduated and it seems like 3 weeks ago he was on the grounds crew in Potomac, that's freaky in itself. I mean, like, I love the experience of that kind of stuff, because for me, in my experiences in minor league baseball, like a lot of the guys you're going to get that are going to be on your grounds crew are, it's usually, high school kids or college kids that need a summer job. The level of attention to detail is usually not super high. Let's put it that way. As the person who's there, and like, if this is your career and you want to put your best foot forward, it can get frustrating, because you have people that are just there to, like, I'm just here to collect a check and eat some popcorn and watch baseball for a little while, and see if there's any people in the crowd I want to look at. So to get for me, it was awesome, because you get, all of a sudden you have a bunch of people on your grounds crew that are motivated to be there. 1, 2, they want to learn, and 3, they were actively, like, trying to get better at what they were doing, because they knew that it was important stuff that they wanted to take with them. So for me, it was awesome, because they were raw at the beginning, but by the middle of the end of the season, they knew how to do all this stuff, and where I was having to double check stuff in the beginning of the year and make sure that they were doing it right, or make sure that it was to the level that we needed it. By the middle of the season, by the All-Star break, it was getting to the point where it was like, okay, I can trust these guys to go and do their thing. And if I asked them, hey, how did the bullpen go? Oh, it went fine. Like, we covered it up and watered it. I knew that if I took the tarp off the next day, I wasn't going to be greeted with some kind of terrible, destroyed bullpen. So it was really nice to, like, that was a really good experience for me, because it was a good experience for me, because I mean, I'm not a teacher, but I had to teach them how to do stuff, and hope that they absorbed some of the information I was trying to give them. And the fact that they were able to do that and then put it into practice pretty much right away was really, really cool. It was a great experience for me, and it was a lot of fun. And it was one of those things, like, you feel like you're giving back a little bit. You feel like you're kind of, I think it's one of the things, like, in our industry, like, it's like a lot of people, the people in our industry, like, we're doing this because we love doing what we're doing. Like, if if we were doing it for the sole, because we were like, oh, I'm going to be a millionaire, like you probably wouldn't be doing our job. Like, let's be real. And so the idea that you're kind of, helping to create the next generation of people that are going to be in the industry, like that's a really cool responsibility. From my perspective, I thought it was a really cool responsibility of, making sure that, we're going to be all right. Like this is going to continue to be it's going to continue to be a successful industry, but it also is going to be a respectable industry that people continue to look at groundskeepers and go, okay, like that guy knows the field. And, we have to respect the field because the groundskeeper's around, I think that's a huge, I think it was for me, it was something I took pretty seriously. Like I wanted to make sure, like, make sure to not scare these kids off, make sure that you welcome them in and go, hey, this can be a really, really fun job. If you do it right, you can have a hell of a time. Like, this can be a lot of I always tell people this I'm like, I have bad days at work just like everybody else does. But at the end of the day, I go to work at a baseball field. So I can't be too pissed. It's one of those kind of deals. Like you kind of like, you have your long days, you feel pretty burnt out sometimes, but at the end of the day, it's baseball, man. Like this is fun. Absolutely. It's supposed to be fun. So it was kind of a cool thing for me to be able to, I just wanted to, welcome them in, make sure they realize like this can be a really cool outlet for you. This can be a really cool job can turn into a great career.
And I can't thank you enough for all you did with them, because you really did show them that. I'm trying to think who else on your crew. You had Bronco, assistant superintendent, Braden Deslip, right? You had him the second year.
Yep.
He graduated last year. He's going to the 4-year program at Tech.
Nice.
Jordan Ellis, he works for
the
Parks and Rec department here in Prince William County. He has for the past 5 years, I think.
Nice.
Who else was on that crew?
Oh God, a bunch of them. I can't remember all of them.
Airfield, I think.
Yep.
I don't know what he's up to. Justin. I can't remember who else worked there.
I mean, it was a good group. They were all
good kids.
It was entertainment. I'll tell you that much. But yeah, I mean, it was, like I said, it was a cool opportunity for me, and it was, something I thought was really, really. It was, it was one of those things. Like I kept telling them, I'm like, you guys are lucky. Like, if I'd had the extra 5 years of knowing what I wanted to do, like I'd have been, it would have been a game changer for me. So the fact that they got a leg up on the competition, and they're going into, for Bronco and the other guys that decided to stick with turf and go to school for it, that they're going in there with a leg up on the competition, and they're going to have, some serious experience that can help them excel. And so it's a really, really cool opportunity for everything, for whoever wants to take the challenge.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more on that. That's what we aim for. But we're all working towards here at Brentsville. It's actually my supervisor at our county level. They're now tracking kids and where they're going. And I sent him a list today. He's like, these are crazy numbers. Like all the different golf courses. Hopefully I have a kid down at Myrtle Beach. He's working for the Pelicans this summer.
Nice.
With grandparents. We're still trying to get a hold of the head groundskeeper. Well, we did, and now we're not. We're hopefully having him on the game day staff for that. But different things like that. I think moments like that, again, working for you. Bronco was someone who was interested in a couple different things, wasn't sure what he really wanted to do. But his time working with you, being able to work at Robert Trent Jones Golf Club, like seeing things for, like, again, what's real in life, that changed his path, for the future, for the better. And again, he's being successful, again, coming out of college with a full-time assistant superintendent gig is awesome, So I can't thank you enough for all of that. With all that, what else have you been able to sort of accomplish in your time? Obviously, you were talking about the players, you had my kids, all these different things. What have been some of the crazy experiences you've had over the years? Obviously, you've had, conversion specialists at Memphis, the Peanuts, the budget of $5 to maintain the single A stadium. Did you hear the stadium is still there? Like the county owns it. They moved to Fredericksburg, which is like down.
Yeah, I know they moved to Fredericksburg. They got the new field down there. I didn't know that they kept the field. I didn't know they.
Yeah, Fitzner is still standing.
The
Fitz. Crazy. The Fitz.
That's shocking because it was barely standing when I was working there. So the fact that it's still there is impressive.
Yeah.
I figured the wind had knocked it down at this point. Yeah, no, I mean, I think one of the things that was needed. And
all right, we're good.
I mean, for me, like, crazy experiences. Like, I mean, there's everything from, trying to put tarps on a baseball field in the middle of a tropical storm. One of the funniest experiences was, early in my career, my first head job in Augusta. My dad was like, is this really going to be a thing that you can get, paid to do? Like, what are we doing here? Like, I don't know about this. You're going to go watch baseball for a living. This seems like a joke. And so he decided to come down and be on the grounds crew for a homestand in Georgia, which was hilarious. And so it was, because he wanted to get a little bit of experience and see what my career was going to be like. And so that was funny because, it's literally the only time in my life I've ever been able to tell him what to do. It's so
that had to be a great day.
it was pretty fantastic. It was fantastic, but it was also like, 95 degrees and 60% humidity. And so my mom's in the stands. She's like, if you kill your father, like, this is going to be bad. She's,
it's not gonna look good. It's going to be a story.
She's like, what are you thinking? Don't let him do anything hard. And I'm like, well, he's got to pull the tarp eventually. Like, that's going to be pretty tough.
That's a thing. Okay. We have to do frequently.
I'm like, it rains here every day at 4:00. So it's going to happen. So there was that one. I mean, for me, a lot of the fun stuff has been, being able to be around. I mean, another story from Augusta was, I grew up a Giants fan, dyed in the wool from, the time I was 5 years old. My first baseball card I ever got was Will Clark's, was a Will Clark card I got out of a box of Mother's cookies when I was like 7 or 8. And so that guy was like my hero. And then my first head groundskeeping job, I'm working for the San Francisco Giants organization. And like a month into the season, all of a sudden Will Clark's there because he's a roving coach for the Giants. And I was like, I'm not usually a big starstruck guy, but he's your favorite. I'm my favorite baseball player of all time. And all of a sudden he's standing in front of me in the dugout and he's like, who are you? And I'm like, I'm the groundskeeper. And he's like, that's awesome, man. And he like puts his arm around me. He's like, we're going to be buddies this week. And I was like, you could shoot me now. Like, I could die a happy man. Like,
this is I'm not freaking out.
Yeah.
We are perfectly fine. We're going to be buddies this week.
Yeah. And so, I got to, set up the field and then sit in the dugout and listen to Will Clark tell baseball stories every day for a week. And I was like, I don't think it gets better than this, like this, this is pretty much about, this is top shelf as far as like top 10 moments of your life. And so, for me, like, that's the kind of stuff that like is really, those are the interactions with players, whether they be, kids that just got drafted or the guys I'm working with now who are in college, or like those stories, like being there last week, when you have one of the craziest walk-offs in regionals history, I'm sitting in the bullpen with our strength coach and our pitching coach, and they're both like jumping around, hugging people, everyone's freaking out, like those are the moments you're gonna, like, I will remember forever. Like, was I on the field? No, but my field was part of it. I got to set that field up, like, and it happened, and I got to watch it from the bullpen. Like, there's a lot of people that don't get to have those experiences in their lives, and so like I feel incredibly lucky to be able to, do something I love, but also that leads to great experiences is like that, just not a lot of people get. I mean, and then there's always, I think I've been lucky enough to have been to, we've had a couple of being on a being a groundskeeper for a couple of teams that, won divisions and stuff like that. And, there is no shower better than a champagne shower. It just never gets old. That's the fun stuff, man. Those are the cool unintended consequences of doing this job. You get to be included in some things that most people in their daily lives will never have a chance to do, no matter what they do. I mean, it's just a thing. I mean, one day you get to meet the hammer of God. The next day you get to, it's your next job. You get to meet Lionel Messi because the Argentina team is practicing at your the sports park. You just never know who you're going to cross paths with. You never know. You never know what you're in for. I mean, when I was working, while I was in Potomac, I was working for Brightview Sports Turf. And so the season was the season. And then in the off season, they were standards of practices for field safety for Major League Baseball. This is the same company that built the Dyersville project, where they did the Field of Dreams Classic this year. And they maintain a bunch of fields. And so during the off season, they sent me all over the place. I think one off season I went to Canada for junior championships, and I was running a grounds crew of 50-year-old men who played adult league baseball most of the year, and they just lived in Thunder Bay where the tournament was happening, and so all of a sudden that was my grounds crew. They sent me up to Thunder Bay. I didn't know anybody, and it was just like, here's your field, these are your guys, help them figure this out for the week. That was a crazy experience. It's always weird to be working on a bullpen, look up and see a legit wolf in the Canadian wilderness that's around the ballpark you're working at. That was kind of scary, but also really, really cool. And then
won't flinch.
Yeah, I was like, oh, dude, this is gonna like, where's Liam Neeson when you need him?
Hey, this is the moment. This is the moment that's all going down.
It's like, oh my God. And then, what was it? I think it was like 2 months later, in the middle of January, they sent me to Nicaragua to build pitchers mounds and bullpen mounds at the National Sporting Academy in Managua, in Nicaragua. Which was another insane, just, I called it groundskeeping without borders. It was a really, really cool experience to go down there and be able to do something that people really, really appreciated. I mean, when we left, they literally had a ceremony for us, and they gave us flowers and stuff, and like people were like crying. They were like so excited about it. And I was like, all I did was build a pitcher's mound, people. Like, it was not that hard. Like, I don't know.
Flowers are not necessary, people.
But they appreciated everything we did for them so much that it was that was how they felt very, very strongly about it. And so it was, those are kind of the, like, having those opportunities are not things that you think about when you're like, yeah, I want to be a baseball groundskeeper. Like, you never know where it's going to take you, but it's always like, if you're up for the adventure, there's definitely ways that you can your skills can take you all over the place. And so it's been a lot of fun for me. Like, those are some of the cooler things I've been able to do. And I think the other thing that's been really, really cool is like, because our industry is a relatively small one, and it's obviously a very specialized one, the ability to connect with people, yourself, other groundskeepers throughout the world who do different sports and do different events. I mean, everybody, you can, because we're turf guys, like you how you can find, the guy who takes care of the courts at Wimbledon. You can talk to one of my earliest influences was a guy who used to work as the groundsman for Newcastle United over in Great Britain. And so because of the nature of the industry, everybody wants to give you a helping hand if they can. Everybody is willing to, share some industry secrets and share the knowledge, because, they all know that, like, the a rising tide lifts all ships. Like, we're all fighting the same battle. So any way we can help each other out, we're all willing to do it. And I think that that's one of the things that kind of sets our industry apart. It's very competitive because there's only so many of these jobs around, but when you're in the industry, people genuinely, I feel, they genuinely want to help. Everybody wants to make sure that you're having the best experience you can. And if you have something that you're facing that you either don't understand or you need help with, like you're usually only a phone call away from somebody who's willing to give you the time to go through things with you and try to help you find a solution.
I couldn't agree with you more on that. I mean, I especially have seen that through this podcast, with the amount of people we've talked to, and I mean, the overall like spread of turfgrass managers across the world is insane,
Mm-hmm.
Which again, that's your stories are like incredible, where you've been, what you've done. It'll take you anywhere you want in this world, and that's it's one of the big sellers that I have in my class. I'm like, guys, like, you can do anything, you can go anywhere you want to go for this, because guess what? There is grass everywhere, even the deserts. There are grasses. Like, people love soccer in the desert over anywhere, like whether it's in Nevada or whether it's in Africa, there are fields, there are golf courses, there is something in some locale where you want to go, and you can go there. And if it's a certain level of living that you need to have, all the professional sporting venues are great opportunities, all the different cities you can work in. Or if you want to live on top of a mountaintop in Asia, like working for a small golf course, you can, and have a happy life with that. So it's incredible to hear all the different places you've been and the different stories. And I love, because I don't think anybody's ever really brought it up, what you could have at like any given moment. Like, you don't know what's going to happen the next day when you're on a grounds crew or whether you're on a field golf course. Like, another Bronco story. He's working at RTJ and he texts me. He's like, Obama's here. I'm like, I'm pretty sure you're not supposed to tell me that. He's like, but he's right on the green right next to me. I'm like, did you get your background check put in or something? Like, so it's things like that, like incredible moments that you don't think about like occurring, like working the World Series. Like, it wasn't like I was on the field all the time or anything, but like seeing the people that were there, the stories, another Ryan, it was more Matt and Bill. I think it was like championship series. And again, we have all this television, everything's all over the place. And they have the Ohio State Penn State game on in the hole where we keep all the drags and everything. What's the score? What's going on? Like, guys, there's like a really big game going on outside, right? They're like, no, I don't care. We got this,
Yeah.
It's just the camaraderie in this industry is unparalleled to anything, it's incredible. And you hit it right on the head. You're just a phone call away, So
yeah.
It's awesome to have that in this industry, especially when we're trying to grow it. People like the kids that were on your crew, I mean, even the little things like with the team, having the opportunity to learn how to maintain the mound, take that into say a minor league career, and then eventually maybe like it doesn't work out, but I want to stay in baseball. You've shown them a way like that most people really don't think about. So again, it's just awesome to hear. I'm keeping you really long, and I apologize.
No worries, dude.
But where did you meet Messi, by the way? I didn't know that.
Yeah, no. So he was. We did the 1 year that they let the United States play in Copa America. They had international practices in Houston, and so they used our sports park. We had Mexico, Jamaica, Argentina, and somebody else. Canada? No, not Canada. Mexico, Argentina, somebody else. I can't remember. But so it was pretty funny because JJ Watt showed up that day because he wanted to meet Messi. And so it was pretty weird.
Fangirling, and you're like, you're JJ.
Yeah. And so, it was pretty weird to like meet a human that's like, I mean, Messi's a little dude. And then like you meet JJ Watt with 30 seconds later and you're like, I don't understand how you guys are the same species.
Same pedigree in your own.
Yeah. Like just freaks of nature that, But I mean, so yeah, that's the thing that I always tell people, like, that's part of the fun is, no 2 days are the same. Like, yeah, you might do the same process. You repeat the same processes over and over and over again to prepare your field and to take care of your field. But you're also going to run into, everything from, wildlife to, random people showing up for an event to any number of things, really. I mean, we have, like, at Stanford right now, we have this hawk that lives in one of the light towers. And last weekend during the game, it flew out of the light tower and snatched a squirrel in front of everybody, and then took it up and it landed on top of the net behind home plate and was just eating the squirrel. And everyone's people were freaking out.
Save the squirrel.
The compliance lady's like, can you guys do something about it? I'm like, what do you want me to do?
You want me to touch the hawk that's eating its dinner? No, I'm not going to do that.
I was like, that's this is National Geographic at work here. I can't tell you, I'm not messing with that thing, man. It's got a lot more stuff.
You can't be mad at the hawk for wanting dinner and the show,
Yeah. The hawk's doing the same thing that everybody else is doing. It's just he didn't have to pay for the concessions.
Yours went through a process where you didn't have to bite the head off the pig. Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's you just never know what you're you never know what you're going to find. I mean, it's, and I that's one of the things I love about it is, like I said, you might be doing the same processes over and over again, but, depending on what day it is and depending on what the weather's doing, depending on who's at the ball field, depending on any number of variables, you're going to have a wildly different day, today than you are going to have next Wednesday. No 2 days are exactly the same, so it's your ability to, I think a lot of it, for me, especially, one of the reasons why I was so keen on moving around and seeing so many different places and working so many different places was you want to be able to have the experience to be able to, at least, if not, you're never going to have the experience of experiencing everything, but you at least have the ability to adjust on the fly and handle stuff. You don't want to be surprised and shaken by something. You want to be able to go, okay, this happened, I got to go do this, and this, how to, process the situation and then make a move, and I think that's one of the things that I loved about my experience was just, you get a little bit you learn a little bit about a bunch of different things, and that helps you get through each day.
It's funny. We had a faculty meeting at school today, and we do these professional developments where we're trying to think of new and creative ways, in the classroom. I think turf in a sense is probably one of the greatest ways to educate students on what it takes to actually live in the world, and I'm not saying my classroom or anything like that. I'm saying like you're saying, critical thinking, understanding problem solving, seeing that things happen for a reason, understanding how to prevent it moving forward, just being able to put the things that education is trying to teach in a regular classroom in perspective, in the sense of, maybe they do this or maybe they don't, but they've had the experience of, okay, this is how I can take preventative measures in a certain way, whether it's a different industry, different job, or something like that. So I couldn't agree with you more on all that, because especially in college, that's what I noticed about, again, going from high school, college, MLB, NFL, the biggest area in which something can occur differently is college athletics, because you have everything, but there are so many different needs to be met by different coaches, different groups, different facilities people. Hey, I need this. Hey, I need that. We need to make sure we have this painted on the sideline, make sure we're getting everything prepped, college athletics. There's such a high end of being on point for certain people. And I think the funniest thing that I experienced is it was different for every sport, whether that was the coach's standard, whether that was the administrator's standard, whether that was the athletic director's standard. I had a really good relationship with, his name is John Boleyn. He was the athletic director for Frank Beamer when he was the football coach at Tech. So they were together for those 28 years that they were when he was coaching. And he went over to baseball when Frank retired, and again, I just had a really good relationship with him and how he expected things. And he always knew he could rely on me as a student, which is kind of crazy to have, again, someone of that pedigree doing things for him. It was awesome to have those experiences and having something new each and every day. I think the funniest thing I ever had to do for him, he wanted me to take the new athletic director of like a month, and these new donors, they renamed the stadium after their bank, and he wanted me to drive them during batting practice onto the field without getting hit. I'm like, how's this gonna go? So coming in from right field, I'm like driving and dodging. I'm like, oh. And the coach is like, what are you doing? I was like, well, your boss told me to drive this boss out here. So it was like, this isn't gonna end well for me either way. So we're just gonna roll with it. No one got hit. I will say that.
Yeah.
I did finish the
job. There you go.
Got it done right.
Yeah, like, oh man. Yeah, that's the thing that's always interesting is it's you never know what fly is going to get thrown in the ointment. I had a similar experience when I was in Memphis. We had NBC had started shooting a show about civil lawyers in Memphis. And so I think the show only ran for like a season, but it happened the season that I was there. So awesome. And so one day, all of a sudden there's just one day we're having early work batting practice, and all of a sudden there's just like this dude walking around in center field with an umbrella, and I'm like, what is happening? So I run out there and I'm like, sir, like, what are you doing? Like, where did you come from? Why are you wandering around the outfield? And he's like, oh, I'm from NBC. I'm scouting because we're going to shoot our show here. And I was like, okay. I'm going to have to ask you to like get off the field because I don't want you to get hit by a baseball. And he's like, well, I'll be able to move if they're coming. And like, mind you, this guy looked like he was probably 65. And I was like, I think like, I'm not
with that.
I'm like, sir, like high rate of speed here. Like it might not be a thing that you see coming. Like, I'm just walk with me over here to the side, please. Right, like just
right here.
I'm like, I don't want to watch you get hit in the face with a baseball. And so, yeah, I mean, I love that kind of, like you said, it's, sometimes people have the best of intentions, but the worst ideas about doing things at an awkward time. And it's like, yeah, there's some stuff out here that can hurt you if you're not paying attention to everybody, but it's always interesting for sure.
I think the funniest experiences is when somebody who is not in the realm of either like the athletic department or turf or whatever, and they just walk into it like, I know what I'm doing. It's totally fine. Don't worry about it. And you're just like, who are you? And what do you mean you know what you're doing? Because I'm not even trying to tell you to do anything specific. I'm just trying to tell you there's danger in this area at this time.
Exactly.
So it's always interesting. It makes for funny stories. I will say that.
Oh, for sure. Never a dull moment.
Never, ever, honestly, whether it's equipment, whether it's the field, irrigation, diseases, all the different things, never really going to stop on us, is it?
No, but I mean, I think that's the fun part for me. It's like, I also think it's like, I think one of the most important things I learned was, one of the things from Ryan, I remember one of the things he told me, like before I left New York to move down to Augusta, he was like, there's going to be days when you don't think you're doing anything right. And there's going to be days when everything goes sideways on you. You're going to have the best of intentions, but nothing's going to work. And you're going to be really overwhelmed. He goes, I just want you to know that it happens to everybody and you're going to be fine. Like, just get through it. Just like step by step, just get through it. And like, that's one of the things I've come back to so many times in the rest of my, throughout my career is just like, nobody's perfect all the time. You're going to make mistakes, but it's like, as long as you don't repeat them, you figure out a way to make the process work for you. You figure out a way to, make sure the bad days are few and far between. But, as long as you're kind of, using your experiences the right way, you can, it's such a valuable thing to be able to get out there and just do it.
Yeah, for sure. And it's great advice from Ryan. He always had moments like that where you're like, wow,
he's really groundskeeping Yoda.
Yeah. We'll make sure he knows, right? Ryan Woodley, the Yoda of groundskeeping. With all that, I did have a quick question. What Bermuda are you managing out there? Obviously, you're in that transition zone like you were over here.
Yeah. We have
you had Patriot at the Peanuts, by the way, Bermuda?
Yeah, it was Patriot
Okay,
at Fitz. Yeah, it was Patriot at the Fitz. We had on our, let's see, it's we have Bandera on both the softball and baseball fields.
How
Bandera on this, it's one of the things, like if I was going to resod the field, I wouldn't do it with Bandera.
Yeah.
It's the problem that we have with it is the people that me and my boss took over for weren't the most, I don't know the best way to put it. Like there was a lot of negligence as far as the field went. So like when I first took over, the two guys I work with, Doug and Daniel, they literally told me they mowed the field the same direction, same pattern every day for like 12 years.
Gotta love that.
And so we're still dealing with, there's still plenty of places on the field where you can kind of like just run your hands against the grain of the grass and the whole thing just like lifts up like a bad toupee. And so like it's that kind of stuff where it's like those are the parts of those are the issues that we're having with the Bandera. Like what we've been trying to do just to counteract is just changing up directions of verticutting throughout the season.
Out of it, probably.
Yeah, verticutting it, uni raking it, doing whatever we can to kind of just like get it kind of growing against against the grain a little bit, and just trying to like move it back and then shave it off so it just starts to grow vertically again. That kind of stuff. Those are the only real issues. I mean, it's good grass. One of our main issues is the fact that everything on campus is surrounded by trees, and with trees come
good for Bermuda. They gotta love this. Issues.
Yeah, and like the shade issues we have a couple of shade issues. Like our back arc on our softball field is, it's like almost impossible to grow Bermuda back there, and so we actually just got clearance from the softball coach. She was like, whatever we need to do, if we need to cut some trees down or we need to lift up the canopy on the trees, like do whatever you need to do. Like, I'm fine with it. Like, she's like, I'd rather have good grass back there than deal with these shade issues. And I'm like, awesome. The other issue we run into with that is, there's squirrels and all sorts of wildlife and acorns and all sorts of crap that fall on the field. And then, one of our big things is we have a lot of contamination of POA getting into the Bermuda. And so we have a little bit of like a marbled look for most of the year because it's, that transition zone. Like, this is the best time of the year for us. Like, we love it because it's when that POA can't handle the heat anymore.
POA is dying off and everything.
And it's like me and my boss joke all the time. We're like, the fields look their best 3 weeks after sports end for the year.
When you're leaving, right?
Yeah. Like, just in time for kids camps on the baseball field. It's like in prime, perfect condition. It's like, okay, great.
I love it.
But like, that's the lot in life. But yeah, those are the kind of like the contamination issues, the thing we battle. We've been spraying Revolver and some stuff and some other stuff to try to like get rid of as much as we can during the growing season so that we can avoid having so much contamination come the winter. Those are the big turf issues we really face. Not too much disease pressure just because it's so dry out here. Not a whole lot of humidity.
Different than back over here in DC, right?
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, I remember there was years where I was like, we'd put the tarp down and we were like, I'm glad we're getting close to transitioning anyway, because this disease is going to take out my winter rye. But like, you're like, okay, at least I don't have to. At least I don't have to waste money on the product. The disease is going to do the job for me on the rye, and then just let that Bermuda push through. But
absolutely.
Yeah. So, those are the big turf issue for us has just been, a lot of the fields haven't been like our soccer field in Kagan hasn't been resodded. And I think they said the last time they did it was like 1995. It's just, it's a mess.
I was born in 1995.
There you go. And so, it's one of those kind of deals where you're going, okay, like those are the like, it's all about just trying to like, we're trying to, make sure that we're, it's battling contamination back and forth. And for us, me and my boss, it's just been reintroducing these agronomic practices that just had been kind of put on the back burner for a while. Like the people that were here before us, their solution to everything was just like throw some rye seed in the hole and like hopefully it's fine. And it wasn't necessarily like, it was just negligence through not really knowing what they were doing. They got thrown in charge of these fields and they did the best they could, but they didn't have the institutional knowledge to know what they were doing. I mean, hearing some of the stories from the guys in our crew now, I'm like, oh my God, this is insane. But it also explains a lot as to where the fields were and where they're, why it's been such a project to kind of get them pointed in the right direction. But I think, through, hard work and reintroducing a bunch of these processes, whether it's, bringing the uni rake onto campus or verticutting and consistently aerifying, top dressing, all that kind of stuff. Like those were foreign concepts. And to be honest with you, that one of the big things with our baseball coach was he had seen those processes go horribly awry and seen people messing up the irrigation system because they're poking holes in it and, using the verticutter and like turning too swiftly and just grinding everything up. And so initially, like when we first started reintroducing this stuff, like I literally had a conversation with the baseball coach where he was like, I don't like when you guys do this stuff because every time you do it, something bad happens. And I'm like, that was the old guy. That was then. We know what we're doing. It's going to be okay. And I think because we've been able to perform that stuff at a higher level, like we're raising that credibility again with the grounds crew. So the coaches are starting to kind of, now they're trusting us more and they're willing to be more cooperative and they're willing to be a part of the process as opposed to initially when we were first here and they were like, you guys don't know what you're doing. Like, I don't care. Like, we're not going to listen to you because the last people that were doing your job were insane. And so it was one of those things where it was really, really interesting for us where it was like, okay, we have to make sure that when we do these things, we are on point. There's no mistake. This is the stuff we need to make sure we do put our best foot forward and be able to, regain that credibility with the coaches tonight. And now, to a man and woman, like all these coaching staffs work with us and they're way more collaborative. They're way more interested in hearing our ideas. And luckily, we've been able to perform these things at a high level and increase their willingness to like let us be a part of things. I mean, one of the initially the softball coach was, she was a lot like the baseball coach. She was just like very curious, very, very concerned about anything really going on in the field because she was just like, I don't want, I want this thing to look good when we're playing on it. And it's like, that's a rational thing.
Like,
that's
valid.
Yeah. Like that should be a concern. Great. And so, I mean, I remember like one of the first things that really kind of, turned her, like at least got her thinking like, okay, like this is going to be all right. We can work with this person was towards the end of last year. We had senior day for softball. And prior to me being there, they had these big stencils for senior day. And they were just, they would stencil the numbers of the girls that were graduating along the back arc of the infield. And I was like, that just looks like a phone number. Like, it just looks like a bunch of numbers. Like, and I was like, and from my perspective, I was like, our stadium's not that big. Like, the people can't really see those numbers from the stands. Like, all those people are in town to see their person graduate, have their senior day moment. And like, it's great that you're putting the numbers out there, but no one can see them very well from the stands. And I was like, so and personally, I was like, I don't think it's a great idea to just be aerosol spraying numbers on the field because, it's not great for the grass. And so I came up with the idea of just like, can we use the stencils, but put them around home plate? And, so everyone can see them, everybody can see their senior's number. It becomes a little bit more of a centerpiece. It's, we can put the logo in next to it. And she was kind of hesitant about it, but she was like, I'm willing to let you try it. Like, we'll see what happens. And, all the seniors' families loved it. The visiting coaches were over there taking photos of it so they could take it back to their campus. And so it was one of those things where she was like, okay, like we had a collaborative conversation. We bounced some ideas off each other, that we came to a good compromise. And it ended up being a thing that now, like this year, she was excited about, hey, we're going to put those numbers on the dirt again, right? Like this is going to be a thing. Like, yeah, of course. Like looking forward to it. Just let me know what numbers I got to put in, and we'll take care of it. And so I think just doing that kind of stuff, like it's been a huge thing, just being able to kind of get people more comfortable with letting us do what's best for the turf again. And making sure that they feel comfortable with us, operating and doing what we know is best for the turf, and them sticking with us when, like we're going to beat it up. It's not going to look great, but we also know that we don't have a game for 6 days, and in 6 days, it's going to look fine.
It'll look perfect.
It's all that kind of stuff. Like,
yeah, 100%. Has there been any discussion of not resodding, but maybe like a sprigging type of thing, with a different variety, maybe a little bit more tuned towards the transition zone?
Yeah, well, I mean, the big thing for us is, it's all about what we can get, people to pay for. So, I mean, we've come up with, our big thing is just making sure that, when the coaches are comfortable with letting us know that they're open to the idea, like our biggest thing is just making sure we put the numbers in front of them. Here's our idea.
100%.
This is what we want. This is what we think is going to be good. We, a couple of years ago, we resodded the soccer and lacrosse practice field. And we put, we have Tahoma out there now. And it's awesome. And I think that went a long way. We oversaw the project, and now that practice field's, you could, it's bulletproof. That thing takes wear and tear like a champ and just keeps on coming. And so, yeah, all that stuff kind of goes into making people feel more comfortable about letting us execute big projects like that. And now we're talking about being able to resod baseball infield and, get it kind of, get everything recentered and done properly. And so, yeah, I mean, there's a couple of those big projects that we're trying to get pushed through right now, and hopefully they get green lit so we can kind of continue to evolve as a turf department.
Working down the path of righting the ship for sure.
Yep.
So we wrap up each episode because I'm always curious to sort of hear what your guys' thoughts are on sort of these two questions. The first one, and again, you've done so much in your career and you've met so many different people and had all these different experiences. If there was one thing, and it's not to make anything better, easier, or whatnot, if there was one thing you wish you knew going into the industry, what would that one thing be and why?
That's a good one. One thing I knew and why. I'll be honest, so I think the biggest thing for me was, I don't know, this is a tough one. I mean, one of the big things for
no, you're good.
One of the big things for me was, it's an old John Wooden quote: "Be quick, but don't hurry." Being able to slow myself down and really focus on what I'm doing, but also being able to execute what I'm doing in a timely manner, is a huge deal. Because I mean, like we've covered earlier in the conversation, like you're running on a pretty concise schedule for most of the year. And so your ability to execute projects and keep a calm head, is a huge deal. And being able to, and be quick, but don't hurry means, be able to do things in a timely pace, at a timely pace, but also don't hurry so much that you're going to make dumb mistakes. Be able to calm yourself down, focus on what you're doing, execute what you're doing, and then move on to the next step. That was early, I was just trying to get everything done immediately. And it was just like, I was worried about every deadline. And so I made plenty of mistakes my first year my first year in Augusta, just because, you're just breaking stuff because you're trying to just go hell for leather and get stuff done. It's like, no, like you're going to get done with things faster because you're not going to end up having to fix 3 things because you've been rushing around doing dumb stuff. So that was a big thing for me. And yeah, I think the other thing was just, I'll be honest with you. One of the, like I said before, like just with, I always am looking back going, man, I wish I would have found this sooner. That was like my big thing is just, like I got started. Like I said, I went back to school. I think my first job would have been 2012, 2013. My first head job in Augusta, and I was 25, 26. So, I mean, relatively late. I mean, I would have loved to just gone, a turf program is the thing for me. I'm going to do that right out of high school. I'm going to go straight and do that thing. Cause like, I've loved every moment. Like I've really enjoyed my journey so far. And like, just knowing that I could have been started earlier, it would, that would have been a game changer for me. But, as saying that, I definitely wouldn't change anything about what I've been able to do so far.
Absolutely. Couldn't, again, everything you've accomplished is unbelievable, and getting to this point where, again, you're back home and everything, that's gotta be awesome. It's always good to hear the story of an incredible adventure coming back sort of to your roots, The last question we always ask, and I'm excited for this one because you've actually mentored my kids, my kids, and seeing what you've done with them and everything. We're like 2 days away from graduation here. I got a bunch of kids doing a bunch of different things, a lot in turf, a lot not in turf. What would be your best words of advice for them taking that next step in their lives, finding their passion and moving forward to this next stage of their lives?
I would say you can't be afraid to screw up. Everybody does it. The whole key is learning from it. You're never going to do everything perfect the first time. So trying to have that expectation is unrealistic. Get in there, get messy. Don't be afraid to take some chances. One of the best things if you'd have told me when I was 21 that I would move out of California and live in a bunch of random places and do what I'm doing, I would have thought you were insane. There is no way I would have done it. But taking the leap, moving to New Jersey for school, and then moving to New York and Georgia and Texas and Tennessee and Virginia, and then back here, it's, you got to get messy. Don't be afraid to take some chances, man. Like, enjoy that adventure, because, that's what's going to make you who you become. It's going to help you along your path. It's going to help you find that thing that you love doing. And when you find the thing you love doing, it makes every day easier. When you enjoy going to work every day, when you enjoy, whether it's like you said, whether it's in turf or whether it's not, if you find a passion, you find something you love doing, it makes the tough days easier. So I would just say, don't be afraid to take some chances, get out there, take a swing, and don't be afraid to get messy. But also, when things don't go perfect, just make sure you learn from them and don't make the same mistake twice.
I still need to work on not making the same mistake twice. I do that quite often.
Well, hopefully it's with the little stuff.
Yeah. We haven't killed any fields or anything, so we've got that going.
There you go. There you go. Right on.
I want to say thank you so much for taking the time. Sorry that it went so long. It was just
no worries,
talking to you, man. I hope you're doing well out there. If I'm ever in the area, I'll definitely come and see everything you got going over there. And again, for everything you've done with my kids, I can't thank you enough. I know they loved you.
Oh, dude, it was my pleasure. I was glad to be on the ground floor on that one. It's something that I am, I'll be honest with you. I definitely didn't have anywhere near as much of an impact on those kids as you do, but I definitely I take a little bit of pride in the fact that I was able to help you at least get that thing off the ground and get it moving in the right direction. I think it was a cool thing for me to be a part of, and I'm proud as hell when I see, all the stuff that you're posting stuff about your kids, and what they've accomplished. It's awesome, man. It's cool to see. And it's good stuff that you're doing. So, keep that up.
We're trying.
And also, eventually at some point I'm gonna get back out there and me and Will will go, tip a couple back and tell some stories.
Yeah, for sure. Will's up in New Jersey now. Did you hear about that?
I know.
I'm like,
nuts.
What are you doing?
He's being Will. I don't know. There's no other explanation for that.
No, there's not. There really isn't. I love that guy. It's been a while since I talked to him. Actually, I probably should call him. It'd be like, why are you calling Cody and not me?
Yeah, I'm just gonna send him the link to this and be like,
you
missed out on a good conversation. Yeah. I don't know what the hell.
Let's see how he responds to it.
Nice.
Well, again, I want to thank you for taking the time today.
No worries.
Best of luck with the Super Regional.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.